Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to discuss something that Sir Charles Elliot brings up, and I agree with him. And me saying that I agree with him is not easy to say because this is a guy who's very racist, and his view or perspective of the African was very bad. By reading his book, you get the impression that he had very low opinion of Black people in general and East Africans. To be specific. But there is something he says in this book, and I need to point out that we might never like someone, but not everything they say is negative, or not everything they say we have to disagree with, even when we don't like them. Sometimes people you don't like might say something that is actually a fact, or it's actually something that is a good idea. But I need to say this first. Sir Charles Elliot was or served as a commissioner for East Africa. That is an office that was created by the British when Kenya had not become officially a colony. And this was somebody who basically ruled on behalf of the king and the queen here. This is the office that was later on changed to become the office of governor. Now, Sir Charles Elliot served in this office from 1902 to 1904 when he resigned. Then he published this book, which is titled The East Africa Protectorate. And this is a book that he discusses many things about the land that later on came to be known as Kenya. Now, of the many things he discusses, of course, he discusses the geography, the climate, the potential of the land, the politics. He also discusses about the people. Now, if you've watched my videos, you know that I have a problem with the use of words like Bantu, Nilot, and Kushites as words that are used to describe groups of people. Because to me, and I think very many people will agree with me, that Bantu, Kushite, Nilots, all these are language groups. They are not genetics of the people. And people embrace languages, people drop languages. Today, as East Africans, we speak Swahili, we speak English. It doesn't mean that that has changed our DNA. No, we've just embraced new languages. And we are slowly dropping other languages. That has happened throughout human history, so it's not something new. But some people use these words, Bantu, Kushites, Nilot, as if they mean the genetic of the people, as if it's only now that people are adopting or are embracing new languages and dropping other languages. This is human nature. It's how it has always been. A language is just a tool that we pick and use when we need it. And if we get another tool, we might drop that one and pick another one. Now, here is something Sir Charles Elliot says, and he mentions that in his own opinion, he thought that there was no genetic relationship between the so-called Bantu of East Africa and the so-called Bantu of Southern Africa. And he mentioned the Zulu in particular. He says he doesn't think there is any relationship, and he says he seems to think that the Zulus, or the people of the southern part of Africa, are the original owners of the Bantu languages, or the Bantu, of course, foundational language. And he says that the so-called Bantu of East Africa, they just adopted the language. And I'm going to read that part where he talks about that. This is what he says. The Bantu-speaking tribes of the Protectorate, besides the Swahilis, are the Wanyika, or inhabitants of the jungle behind the coastline, the Wapokomo on the Tana, the people of Taita Hills and Taveta, the Wakamba, whose center is about Machakos, and the Nzawia Peak, but who appear to extend from Zabak River to the district of Meru on the east of Mount Kenya, the Kikuyu or Akikuyu inhabiting the Kikuyu country and the slopes of Mount Kenya, and the Bantu Gavirondo on the northwestern shore of Lake Victoria. Of course, those are Luyas, with whom shall perhaps be classed the little-known tribes of Kisi or Kosovo. It does not seem necessary to assume that there is any racial as opposed to linguistic unity among these peoples. At any rate, the burden of proof lies with those who make the assertion. It will appear that the Zulus and other warlike tribes of South Africa are very different from the Wakamba and Wanyika, and unless the unity of physical type can be proved, I should be inclined to think that the stock or the many mixed stocks who have produced the natives of East Africa have merely adopted a Bantu language. So that is his opinion. He doesn't think that the people of Eastern Africa, or the people of East Africa, or the East Africa Protectorate, as it was called, were really related to the Bantu-speaking groups of southern part of Africa or other parts of Africa. And it is his opinion that the Bantu speakers of East Africa, or the East Africa Protectorate, just adopted the language. It did not mean that they are related to the people of the southern part of Africa. That has always been my position, or that has always been my understanding, or at least I lean towards that way of thinking, that sometimes we mingle or attach language and genetics so much together to the extent, of course, there is always a relationship between language and genetics. Don't get me wrong about that. There is movement of language that is followed by movement of genetics. That happens a lot actually, but it's not always automatic. That's the point. People take it to be automatic, that if people are speaking a Bantu language here and people are speaking a Bantu language there, then it means that they are related. Not necessarily. People can speak a Bantu language, a Swahili language, for example, but they are completely not related to other people speaking the same language. That has happened throughout human history, and sometimes we assume that these things just happen today. They've never happened before, that the language people speak has always moved with their DNA forever. I don't think so, and Sir Charles Elliot doesn't think so. I'm not saying he's a respectable authority. No, not at all. I don't think... I think he was just a racist individual who was interested in mostly portraying Africans as inferior and things like that. So I don't think he's someone I can be so proud to say, oh, because he agrees with me, then that is very good. But I need to point out that at least he also makes that point. Those are my random thoughts.